Welcome to Cape Town, South Africa. My name's Smokey Joe. I'm the founder and owner of Bongalong, and we're a group that's fighting for the legalization of cannabis. I'm also the lead organizer of the Cape Town Cannabis March 4 years in a row running. But what we're here for now is Bongalong interviews. With these interviews, we're going to go around and ask South Africans how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in our beautiful country. The reason why we're doing this is for education. We would like you to see what other South Africans think about cannabis. The reason why we want to educate you is because the moment that you realize how many benefits cannabis hold, I'm sure you will change your opinion on how you feel about legalizing cannabis in South Africa.
Rolling.
Hi there guys, my name's Smokey Joe and we're back for episode 4 today. Episode 4 we're going to be filming outside of the Magistrates Court here. And we hope to find some magistrates, advocates, lawyers or state prosecutors that actually have the balls to answer our question. How do you feel about the legalization of cannabis? So let's see what the people here have to say about it. Hi there ma'am, so tell me, what's your name?
My name's Akila.
And Akila, what do you do?
I'm currently working at the call center in the foreshore.
Okay, great, and what are you guys doing at the Magistrates Court today?
My boyfriend's appearing for something at the moment, so I'm with him to support him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the question that we ask South Africans is, how do you feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa?
Well, I think they need to legalize it because cannabis is actually good. It helps you think. It relaxes your like when you're in certain situations, it helps you relax. Do you understand? So it's very good for cancer as well, and it keeps kids off the street. I think, yeah, so they need to legalize it.
My name is Mone Weingart.
And Mone, what do you do?
I'm actually parking cars on the streets, and that's what I'm doing for a living.
Is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa?
I think they can legalize cannabis because it's a herb, man. It's not a drug. Some people, they use it to heal them and stuff like that, man.
Okay, and how have you heard people using it to heal themselves?
Some people use it like in a medicine. Some people use it like to smoke, to ease your mind. You see, to feel relaxed, to relax your body, man. But it's not a drug, man. You see, it's a herb. So I think they can legalize it. Why not?
William,
and William, what do you do?
I'm an advocate.
Advocate. And what were you doing at the court here today?
Well, I had a postponement. The matter.
The question that we ask South Africans is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa.
Look, I've been involved in it as well. I've been assisting a group called the Khoisan Group who's been moving for it. And I think the latest stance, which I agree with, is to try to have it legalized purely for medicinal purposes. There's no doubt, it appears scientifically, that cannabis is of use, you know, for people, principally people suffering from cancer. But cannabis, yeah, it's probably got its drawbacks as well, especially when used recreationally. But I personally support it to the extent that it can be used for the benefit of mankind, and to the extent that where it is useful, other than obviously just getting a high. So I support it, and I would support a move like that. If the Constitutional Court could make an order that it's not illegal if used, like I said, medicinally, and anything connected with its healing properties.
With the illegal market of cannabis, it's definitely handing criminal networks a large revenue stream. Do you think if we legalize it simply on the idea of removing that revenue stream and that stream of power to criminal networks and giving it back to people so we can regulate, control and tax it, do you think that would have a positive or a negative impact on society?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me just tell you why I would go for absolute straight out legalization of all drugs. Is simply, you know, inform people, inform society of the negatives of it, negative aspects of it, but legalize it all, because it's like prohibition in the States. The criminalization of these drugs, because people use it no matter what you do, has created a huge and massive criminal network that operates and controls people. And I think the smartest thing any country can do if they're trying to move to first world status, number one, is make education completely free if possible. But secondly, genuinely legalize the use of drugs. And if you're a druggie, come and pick up your usual stash once a week. but get educated about it. Get shown to what extent it destroys your life. And it may sound completely, to some people, like madness. It may sound completely radical, but it's a fact. For me, it's a fact that if you legalize drugs, you change society. You stop the truly criminal mind from operating in a sphere that you've created by criminalizing drugs. You created a sort of under the radar alternative lifestyle where they operate, live, abuse, destroy, threaten, and become rich. They become rich. People become billionaires, especially even in this country, out of the criminalization of drugs.
As an interest question, now that you've mentioned the legalization of drugs as to remove the power from the criminals, and you also said about education, do you think that if government was to legalize all drugs and tax it, do you think those taxes would be enough to pay for education for everybody who wanted to get the tertiary education in this country?
No, for sure. Look, the other thing people will also say, that they always counters to everything, that the use of drugs alone by individuals leads them to commit crimes. So, because they have to pay for it. Now imagine most crimes today, breaking in, robbing, raping, murdering, where people are just trying to get their hands on money for drugs. If they get it free, for number one, if they get, so I'm talking about giving it free to them, the crime rate will drop tremendously.
I'm Advocate Carlos Langeveld.
And Carlos, okay, you're an advocate. I was going to ask what you do, and what were you here for why were you here at the courthouse today?
Oh no, it just had a matter that was set down for diversion. It's possession of drugs, and it was successfully diverted.
Okay,
yeah.
And was it cannabis or more serious drugs?
More serious.
Okay, but so the question that we're asking people today is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa.
Man, I didn't follow what happened in the United States with regard to the legalization there. But as I understand, it was for medical purposes. It was legalized, and obviously, if they have a proper control system that works there, then they can apply the same system here, and it can work here as well.
Okay, and what have you heard about the medical benefits of cannabis coming from the statesides and the other places where it has been legalized?
Nothing yet, man. I don't know what it's used for, why people use it, but obviously. A scientist or a doctor or medical professional will be in a better position to explain that and say why it's necessary. But from my point of view, I've no idea why people uses it.
Okay, and then you being a advocate that deals with drug-related charges, do you think that it would be better for the system to have it in a legal market where we can regulate, control and tax it, rather than having it over in a illegal market where right now criminal networks are using it as one of their primary revenue streams?
No, definitely it makes sense, especially if you have it regulated and it's taxed, because then there can be extra revenue, towards hospitals, schools, infrastructure and so forth. And look at the Traffic Act in terms of driving under the influence. That one is sufficiently regulated. If they can establish something, the legislature establish the same thing with regards to drugs. And for example, driving a motor vehicle while under the influence of cannabis, then it will definitely work. But in terms of revenue, I think it's a good source of income for infrastructure, schools, hospitalization and stuff like that.
Smokey Joe, back at you. And we're here at the Cape Town police station. We were hoping to ask some police officers or maybe a police representative how they felt about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa and what their opinions are surrounding arresting people for cannabis charges right now. But unfortunately, as we saw at the magistrates court, they are not allowed legally to give interviews.
My name is Jason van Graan.
And Jason, what do you do?
I'm a paralegal. I do migration compliance services.
Okay, perfect. And the question that we ask South African is, how do you feel about the legalization of cannabis?
I don't have a problem with it, but at the end of the day, it's against God. God wants us to have a sober mind, and if you are claiming to be a Christian, then you must try and be Christ-like. So by smoking weed, you're not going to have that, how can I say, clear-minded to make rational spiritual decisions.
Now, what's your opinion on the religions that believe that cannabis is actually a tool, a spiritual tool, and a tool to communicate with God?
Well, it's depending on which God they are worshipping, because if it's not the one true God, then that person is a fool. Not necessarily, like I say, everybody differs, but yet at the end of the day, we are talking about marijuana. We know at the end of the day, the body is not meant for that. Yes, our body is meant for eating food and for drinking and stuff like that, but not for smoking.
And have you heard about the endocannabinoid system, the ECS?
No.
They discovered in the last 5 years, they discovered a system called the endocannabinoid system. They've already discovered 111 different endocannabinoid receptors. These receptors only react to cannabis and the various cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant. And in general, wherever they react with these receptors, they have a healing and a positive side effect. Even they found some, it's now been proven in this year, University of Texas did a study where they proved that unlike the studies believe that cannabis actually damages your brain, cannabis actually repairs neural networks and helps with diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Well, like I said, if it's for medicinal use, then it's not a problem. But for the average person, they will abuse it.
So guys, we came here to Parliament. We spent quite a while looking around for people to ask how they feel about the legalization of cannabis. Now, ironically, the officials are against it out of fear for their jobs. But why I said ironically is because a lot of them immediately after we asked that question, they go, because of their personal use of cannabis, they're not willing to give us an interview because they're scared of getting fired. So I ask you this question again. How do you feel about the legalization of cannabis? We are looking for the people who are against cannabis use, and we would please like you to comment on this post or on the video. Comment there and tell us, why do you think cannabis should not be illegal? Share it to your friends and ask them, please guys, let's shoot this Smokey Joe guy down, because we're looking for an opinion on why cannabis should not be legal. And if you give me a good enough opinion, one that I cannot disprove with a rational, logical argument, I will give you my company and I will cease recording these videos, and we will do all of that in a day. Thank you very much.
My name is Simelane.
And Simelane, what do you do?
I work as admin.
Okay, and we're asking people today how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa.
For me personally, I don't have a problem if it's controlled, it's run properly, because either way people are buying it, whether it's illegal or legal.
Tell me, have you heard anything about the medical benefits of cannabis?
I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about it, and it's look like it's working if it's done properly and it's controlled. And there's people like the state is involved, the doctors, the medical people. Yeah, if it can work for people in a good way, why can't we legalize it?
My name is Stephanie Penny.
Stephanie Penny, and what do you do?
I'm a city planner. I run the department for Groupon South Africa.
Okay, and the question that we're asking South Africans is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis.
Well, I would say that I'm definitely pro legalization. I think it would be good for the country, and I think it's a waste of legal resources at the moment. So, yeah, definitely pro.
Okay, and tell me, have you heard anything about the medical benefits of cannabis?
Yes, I have. I would definitely not consider myself an expert in any way, but from things that I've read and a lot of what's happening internationally, I think it's definitely something that we should be using in the country medically for something like cancer, MS, yeah.
Hi there, sir. So tell me, what's your name?
My name is Johan Bester.
And Johan Bester, what do you do for a living?
I'm an attorney.
Attorney, and what is your focus in your attorney work?
It's human rights law. General litigation, criminal law.
Okay. And tell me, how do you feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa?
Well, I think whatever I think about the legalization of cannabis, or any substance for that matter, is irrelevant. Whatever we allow or don't allow, as a legislature or as a oversight body or as a government, needs to be informed by the Constitution. And I don't think you can persuasively argue that the prohibition against cannabis truly presents a danger to justify the prohibition and the criminalization to the extent that it is penalized at this stage. When we look at comparable substances such as alcohol and tobacco, which are perfectly legal, one would note that pro rata they cause more deaths, they are more addictive, and they will kill you. Numerous studies have been done indicating that the most harmful of all drugs is alcohol, which some authors describe as the most boring of substances. And that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that the use of cannabis has been used as part of a ritual and ceremonial context by various religions and ancient indigenous cultures throughout the world. And to deny them the right to use something which on all accounts is relatively harmless is unjustified in my view. When you look at the legislation surrounding cannabis, you need to see it in the context that at this stage it's listed as what they call a undesirable dependence-producing substance. But a good method of comparison would be to look at places and look at the international trend in favor of legalization and regulation. We look at certain states in America, you look at Netherlands and Argentina, and are they truly suffering the debilitating consequences and dependence-producing effects of cannabis? And they're not. In fact, they're thriving. So if anything, it serves as an indication that cannabis legislation needs a rethink. I think it's ripe to come under scrutiny by our courts. In fact, we know that it is going to court next year. And my view, for what it's worth, is that you can't persuasively argue that the prohibition is justified. Arguments you often hear as the gateway argument, but nobody ever uses cannabis as a substance of first instance. They always start with something legal, like alcohol and nicotine. And you must also note that it won't necessarily result in widespread availability, that you can go get it at any supermarket. The consequences of legalization would be regulation, which means with it goes education, and that consenting adults can make informed decision, because at the end of the day we are sovereign individuals, and whatever you put into your body falls under your exclusive jurisdiction, unless of course whatever you're putting into your body is going to it could make you a social burden. If you become addicted, you might steal to aid your habit. But at the end of the day, my own opinion notwithstanding, I just don't see or reasonably foresee that the current prohibition is sustainable. We now have the science saying it's an effective treatment for a wide range of diseases, and the fact that it could be dangerous when taken under the wrong circumstances is simply not a good enough reason to prohibit its use, especially if it can be regulated and that these possible risks can be mitigated to the point where they're almost non-existent.
Okay, and then in your legal activities, how have you personally encountered cannabis, or have you dealt with any kind of cannabis-related cases and those kind of things, and how do they normally go, or how do they turn out in the end?
Well, without disclosing any of the specific cases, I can tell you I have had a few matters dealing with cannabis, and there's a procedure known as a stay of prosecution where you can approach the High Court and ask them to pen the criminal prosecution against any individual who's been charged in terms of the cannabis legislation, if I can call it that. And the effect of that would be that the prosecution gets suspended pending the outcome of the case of the Dagga couple, which is being heard in, I think it's the North Gauteng High Court next year, July.
My name is Karel Verhoeven.
And Karel, what do you do for a living?
I'm a data scientist at OLX.
And what do you do as a data scientist there?
I build predictive models in order to better understand the customer behavior going forward.
Yeah. Great. The question that we're asking South Africans is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis.
Well, I think it should get legalized. I think it will get legalized eventually, hopefully soon, but I definitely think it should get legalized. It's definitely less harmful to the society than alcohol, for instance.
It's Wafika Martin.
And Wafika, what do you do for a living?
I'm a legal translator. The language is Arabic to English and English to Arabic.
Okay, perfect. And the question that we actually ask South Africans today is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis.
Well, personally, I feel it's dependent on what it's being used for. A friend of mine, she's a cancer patient, and she's been using the oil extract of the cannabis, and it seems to be helping her. However, I feel if it's used for like toxification purposes, then I'm not for it. So it sort of depends on what you're using it for.
Okay, yes, indeed. And tell me, your friend, what's the results been using the cannabis extract?
Well, she's only recently started, but she's been, well, it sort of alleviated some of the pain that she's been having, and it's been working better than the other pharmaceutical medicines, and it's much cheaper, so I don't know.
Hi there, ma'am. Tell me, what's your name?
Vanessa.
Vanessa, and what do you do?
I study at AAA, study branding, but I'm also a makeup artist and a makeup vlogger.
Okay, perfect. And what's your vlog?
Vandora _ Vandora, yeah.
Okay, and tell me, the question that we're asking people today is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa.
I'm all for it, I must say. I feel like South Africa has been a free nation and people are allowed to do what they want to do, so why stop something that's really not harming anyone? There's so many other drugs, so many other things that are more harmful than weed.
Okay. And tell me, have you heard anything about the medical benefits surrounding cannabis?
Yes, from cancer to what's it called, tumors, so many things, too many things, from relieving stress. It's just like, for some people it's a lifestyle, and it's the way it's a spiritual, how I understand it, it's a spiritual encounter for some people. So why stop them from reaching their spiritual goals?
Well, yeah, exactly. And tell me, just to gather some information, if you had to take a guesstimate out of your group of friends or the people that you know, in a percentage or out of 10, how many of them do you think use cannabis?
All of them.
My name's Michelle. Hello.
And Michelle, what do you do?
I'm currently busy with some legal matters in the High Court.
And what do you do for a living?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, and tell me, how do you feel about legalizing cannabis in South Africa?
I don't support it at all, insofar as, in the same way as I don't support any legalization of any addictive substance. I think that if people are looking to solve their problems, they should try and solve them without the use of an additional or extraneous product or item. I think it falls in the same category as alcohol. I think that alcohol should also not be as freely available. And the only reason I would support legalizing cannabis or any other drug is for medicinal purposes, where somebody is terminally ill. But other than that, absolutely not. I think that the more we speak about it, the more demand or interest there is in it. And I think it's a childish kind of excuse to escape from reality.
Sophie Loxton.
I'm Simon.
And what do you guys do for a living?
Currently I'm just sort of not very fit, so I'm kind of not doing very much.
Okay, and yourself?
I'm an ethnomedicine practitioner, and I'm a director for a non-profit organization.
Perfect. And tell me, guys, the question that we're asking people today is how they feel about the legalization of cannabis in South Africa.
I feel very strongly it should be legalised, it should be decriminalised, and it should not be a Class A drug.
What are we waiting for?
Jeremy, how do you feel about legalizing cannabis in South Africa?
Well, I think that if we actually apply the rational thinking and science and the sense of fairness and justice, there can be no status quo here. It's going to have to change to something. And obviously, I think the judges know that.
Marcel.
And Marcel, what do you do for a living?
I now work at Devil's Peak Taproom. I'm a waiter.
Okay, and tell me, how do you feel about legalizing cannabis in South Africa?
I am completely in for it. I've been going to court now for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, alright, in refusal on ent. So about 8 times to refuse on ent. That is like every 2 months going for me, I think no reason. They caught me for a gram of weed or 2 grams. They put it down as a gram. Either 50 rand and I'll get a criminal record, or I can keep doing this until it gets postponed. And now I'm actually here today to come and see if it gets finalized.
And then luckily the state's attorney, she saved our asses actually.
Okay, so, yeah, what happened now and there?
And I've just been postponing it, and I thought it was that done, as they said in Caledon. But, you know, it's the system.